you, Mr. Mayor. Just 1 second while we get this going again. Just a bit of background. Since 2000, hang on. Anyone want to do song and dance while I get this up and running? Sorry about this.
Okay. We've just got to get the computer screen back up.
Right.
Thank you.
So basically, tonight's structure will be the Mayor's address. I'll take you through Leichhardt's point of view, our consideration of the environmental impact statement for the M4 East, which is stage 1B of the WestCONnex. It's an environmental impact statement that just looks at that section, not the whole of WestCONnex. Then we'll hand it over to the Sydney Motorway Corporation, who will give us an update, take you through the project, and will be available for questions. My presentation will basically take you through some project background, council's involvement in it, the consideration of the environmental impact statement, and then what the next steps are. Given that the environmental impact statement period closes on Monday, we have set this up so that you do have a chance to get in that last minute submission, and there are A5 sheets that have been presented which have the website and the major projects site so that you can make an online submission if you choose to. Basically, the project in 2012, New South Wales Infrastructure Strategy flagged this project as possible. The New South Wales Long-Term Transport Master Plan then incorporated it, and then in 2014, a revision of the infrastructure strategy was updated, and that also included the total WestCONnex motorway project. Again in 2014, the Metropolitan Plan, which was called Plan for Growing Sydney, included this project amongst others. Now, 2015, the M4 widening has already started, the works on King George's Road intersection with the M5, and now the environmental impact statement for the M4 East has been launched. Basically, as you can see, the WestCONnex motorway project is in 4 sections. The first is the M4 widening, which construction started in 2015, and it's aimed to be completed in 2017. The second stage is the blue section down the bottom, the new M5, again started in 2015, aimed to be completed by 2019. Then our section that we're talking about tonight, the M4 East, anticipated to start construction 2016 with completion and opening 2019. And then finally the M4-M5 link, which is sometimes referred to as stage 3, which links basically from Haberfield through in tunnel to St Peters, will commence construction in 2019 and then be completed and open for operation anticipated 2023. So each of those sections have been addressed individually, and we get to see a detailed EIS naturally for the third stage, so we're just looking at that M4 East. The process itself, this is very broad. There's a lot of other referrals that go on in the process, but basically the Department of Planning and Environment exhibits the EIS, so they put it on exhibition from the 9th of September to the 2nd of November. The Department of Planning and Environment then provides the Motorways Corporation with the submissions that everyone's put in. They then prepare a submission report which summarises the submissions we all make and gives responses to them. So they address each of the submissions that's made. The Department of Planning then assess that report. They will refer it to councils, and the respondent says several referrals, as I said, then send it to the Minister, who will either approve, modify or reject the process. So it's a very simple snapshot. So the proposal itself, basically it's the widening of the M4 from Homebush Bay Drive to Underwood Road in Homebush, so a small section of additional widening, then 2 3-lane tunnels from Homebush to Haberfield, upgrading of key intersections. One of the critical ones for us is that it includes installing a right turn ability from Wattle Street. So everyone knows Wattle Street is where Bunnings is on the corner, runs up and joins on the City West Link. So a right turn if you're heading on Wattle Street north towards the city onto Ramsay Street. So that's a new phase that isn't there at the moment. There's pedestrian cycle facilities proposed, installation of a lot of operational facilities, things that are involved in the management, so a management and operations centre, some construction sites, tolling facilities, ventilation. Council's involvement to date. Basically, Council has considered this project ever since it was announced 2012, and we've sent in our concerns, expressed our concerns about it being a motorway rather than a public transport option, as the Mayor has mentioned, and ensuring that there is a strong community consultation approach. Council have based a lot of their responses on our integrated approach to planning, which originally set a strategic plan, and then under that we developed the integrated transport plan. Many of you probably provided submissions on that 2 years ago. That integrated transport plan gives us the basis for the decisions that we make on planning. So the key goals in it are to reduce private car use over the next 10 years from 44% to 28% for all trips in Leichhardt, to improve safety and accessibility within and around Leichhardt, to encourage public transport use, to facilitate the integration of land use, transport, community and cultural activities, to improve environmental conditions. So a key driver is environmental sustainability, as you're all aware. So that's the basis within which we reviewed the recent EIS. Council's report, or the Council Officer's report, was presented to Council last Tuesday. In a nutshell, the resolution was the Council was opposed to the WestCONnex motorway, including the M4 East, that it objected to a limited time provided for consultation, and that we should request additional information, so clarification on a lot of points and concerns regarding a lot of aspects. Basically, in our consideration, our focus was traffic and transport, air quality and human health, biodiversity and greenhouse gases. So they're the key factors that Leichhardt has been looking at in relation to Leichhardt LGA and the bigger picture of the Sydney region. So, starting with transport and traffic. The impacts that are the major ones for us are between the conclusion of construction for Stage 1B, so it opens, and then we've got this gap of at least 4 years before the third stage opens. So we've got this at least a 4-year window where we have concerns. Key concerns are that there'll be congestion at key intersections, increased traffic volumes, potential for increased through traffic as a result of that, because if you imagine it, if you're driving along a road that's very congested, you're going to try and find an alternative. If we've got increased traffic, there's potential routes that you can wind your way through, or commonly referred to as rat runs. We're concerned about the impact of congestion on public transport and active transport. So in terms of public transport, if we have a congested road network, that delays the buses if they can't get through intersections. Now, there are proposals in the EIS for bus lanes running all the way from Burwood to the city. However, they are not part of this project. They've been considered in the calculations, but they're subject to a separate approval process. In terms of active transport, the more congestion and more traffic we have, the harder it is to cross the street. We're also concerned about the possibility that as congestion increases on the main roads, so particularly Parramatta Road, Dobroyd Parade and onto City West Link, that there's potential that hazardous vehicles and trucks may diverge onto our local road network. It's not a major issue in that it may not happen because our streets are so narrow and windy. However, if we do get those vehicles, they're totally unsuitable to our environment. And then finally, we're concerned about the absence of details of Stage 2 and Stage 3 and the total project. There are references to what would happen in 2021 and 2031, which means the total project's in. However, there's a piecemeal approach in terms of when Stage 2 and 3 are included in the EIS and when it isn't. The congested intersections, as I said, are a critical aspect for us. As the Mayor outlined, Parramatta Road with Dalhousie, Flood, Norton and Crystal Streets will reach capacity. This is in the 2021 analysis. Dobroyd Parade, which is the road that leads from Wattle Street onto the City West Link, again that intersection with Timbrell will reach capacity. Once they reach capacity, people will start making new choices. People won't choose to sit in the traffic the whole time. Some of those choices will be further afield, other ones will affect our local routes. Particularly with the right turn going from Wattle to Ramsay, the potential is that traffic will take the Ramsay Street route, then Marion, and then either pick up Balmain Road, Milton Street, or go through on Stiles Street. The other option is coming from places like Ashfield, Marrickville, they'll take Flood Street and Marion Street, or they may take Tebbutt Street, Darley Road, and then eventually find their way into City West Road. So we need to find ways, if this goes ahead, of mitigating those routes. So one aspect is we could be directly opposed, the other is if it went ahead, we definitely need to mitigate those measures. We also had concern about the modelling itself. One of the critical aspects with this project is the timeline it's operating on, and that meant that most of you are aware of the Parramatta Urban Transformation Project. Increasing population, changing the nature of land use around the three precincts, Bankdown, Leichhardt and Tapperness Hill. At this stage, that project is still up on exhibition. We're still preparing comments, so it isn't definitive. So we have concern that the modelling couldn't take into account all of the changes in population that it was envisaging and the geographical distribution of it, which then could affect the distribution of traffic patterns. In addition to that, there's so much happening in the Sydney region at the moment. Major projects like the Bays Precinct, the northern extension of WestCONnex, the southern extension of WestCONnex, the light rail proposals for Parramatta and Parramatta Road, redevelopment of Sydney Airport and Port Botany, Western Sydney Airport, and the Moorebank Intermodal Freight Terminal. All of these have the ability to alter the traffic and travel demands in the Sydney region. So we need to know that the modelling has carefully taken all of that into account. And we're not confident that given things like the Bays Precinct is only at a very early stage, that the modelling could have taken that into account. Moving on to air quality, we employed consultants to do a peer review of the study. The consultants basically found that, yes, it was an in-depth, high-quality study. They found that the air quality was not significantly affected. However, there were points they needed clarification of. Those points were that they needed to know for sure that the EPA, the Environmental Protection Authority, approved of the assessment and the methodology, because there are variations in the way you approach things and there are variations in the way you interpret. They wanted clarification that the worst-case scenario was genuinely a worst-case scenario that took into account the maximum emissions and that it was done at a peak congestion scenario, so where everything's ground to a halt and there's delays on all of the network. They also asked that there be review of the construction assessment, making sure particularly that, particularly the particulates, which are the particles that float in the air, were included, and especially crystalline silica, which I gather is from the grinding up of the sandstone base, that they want assurance that that has been taken into account in the assessment. The portal emissions modelling was something they wanted to verify that the approach was appropriate, and again asking for the EPA's approval on that. Consideration of dampers on the ventilation systems to improve, and asking to reconsider whether you could co-locate, so put the two ventilation buildings together and have a saving that way. We then moved on to biodiversity. With biodiversity, one of the critical factors for us was that 15.7 hectares of vegetation were lost. Now, a lot of that is directly within the motorway corridor. However, we couldn't find definitive details on how that is being reinstated, how much is being reinstated, and where. In particular, it was pointed out that the EIS did not acknowledge the importance of trees and urban diversity within a densely populated area. While they aren't necessarily indigenous trees in our area, they still provide a very viable and important habitat for wildlife and a source of green. It also didn't indicate the number of established trees that would be removed and how that compensation would be planned, or the cumulative tree loss across the whole WestCONnex project and what that would mean for the Sydney region. So we're asking for more clarification on those. The biodiversity team also asked if they could get clarification on the survey methodology. There was definitely surveys carried out there. There was one full day and 2 evenings were conducted. However, the details that we're after weren't there. They didn't give us the survey locations in the EIS, the time spent at each location, where the species were recorded, the local biodiversity plans of council and the data that council had also don't seem to have been incorporated into the EIS.
Ken, if I can interrupt for one moment, now that we're up to survey methodology, I'm going to give you 5 more minutes, and then I want to hand over to the team from WestCONnex because we need maximum time for residents to be able to ask questions. Please continue.
Great, we also don't want the audience to fall asleep.